Hello, everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. This is the Raging Verbalist, and I am going to be talking to an author, and he is a really interesting guy. He's got a book that's coming out, which I think will maybe just get inside your head. I'm not going to tell you the title. You're going to have to watch the interview, but he was a fascinating guy. His name is Logan Albright. Really appreciate him taking some time and talking about his upcoming book, and you're going to want to check it out. The most important thing is that this guy has some really interesting insights. And hopefully what you're going to do is you're going to go listen to this, and then you're going to say, that's so exciting. And then when his book comes out, because it's supposed to be out soon, so you're getting it before anybody else. So that's the quick tease. Go check it out. Logan Albright is now going to be in with the Raging Verbalist in just a few seconds. Hi, this is John Paul Mendoza, the Raging Verbalist, and we've got a special bonus session for everybody. You know, I don't do guests, obviously, on a regular basis, but I do now. The reason for it is we have an author and a thought leader and somebody who's just, well, he's got a cool name. So, I mean, just on that, you're going to have him on. So I've got Logan Albright. Logan has a brand new book coming out. Logan, talk about your new book. By the way, he is a libertarian. So if that makes any of you nervous, send the kids out of the room, but he's going to be talking about some exciting things about your new book. So Logan, what's the new book that you have?
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. My new book is called Conform or Be Cast Out. It's the literal demonization of nonconformists. And it's about it's a history of people who have been a little bit different, who have not gone along with the grain in society. This goes back to my libertarianism and my belief in kind of celebrating the weirdos in society a little bit. And not only is this a history of people who have been attacked for being different, it's a history of people who have been identified with like evil itself, with the devil, with Satan worshipers, because they do something that's a little bit unorthodox or a little bit against the grain of society. And I wanted to look at those people and, not necessarily celebrate all of them. They're not necessarily all good people, but just point out the tendency that the majority has to try to enforce its opinion on the minority with this really extreme tactic.
So give me an example of somebody who's in the book that you profile that you think really typifies that, nonconformist, if you will.
Sure. Well, my favorite section in the book is about the Satanic Panic, which was in the 1970s and 1980s. And there's a lot of instances in different areas of society there. But there was this whole mass hysteria that swept over the United States in the late 70s, where people started seeing specters of devil worship everywhere. And people who listened to heavy metal music were singled out. People who played role-playing games were singled out. And the saddest story is that there were all these childcare workers. There were all these people who worked in nursery schools and things like that, who were accused of taking part in satanic rituals and who were, completely falsely accused of doing all this child abuse stuff. And a lot of them were imprisoned and their lives ruined. It all got swept up in this belief that there was this plague of Satan worshipers going to the United States with no evidence whatsoever.
Well, you don't need evidence. I mean, come on, when you start demanding things like that, I mean, just because you're a nonconformist makes you suspect anyway, because
right.
By the way, I fully empathize. I haven't even read the book. I mean, I've seen the cover a couple of times, but I haven't even read the book, but I understand because I'm definitely a nonconformist. I mean, and whenever I meet people and I kind of tell them what my background is, they're like, whoa, where did you come from? So, okay. So you go out there, you start doing this and you're laying this out. So who's the book aimed at? I mean, is it casual readers going to do okay? Real intellectuals? Talk to me. Who wants to read this book?
It's definitely written in everyday language, so you don't have to be like a scholar in order to enjoy it. It's for everybody. I think it's for anybody who just kind of appreciates people who are a little bit different. I love subcultures. I love the idea of people who have their weird interests or their hobbies or whatever that nobody else shares. They can find each other on the internet. They can get together and have a little convention, get together and not feel so alone in the world. This obviously is a personal thing for me as a libertarian because, we get quite a lot of heat for having views that don't go along with the mainstream. And so I think anybody who feels a little bit marginalized in society could find something to like in this book.
And actually, it ties very well into my book, which is Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes 3 to 5 years to realize it, position to win. We talk about niches and sub niches and micro niches and what I call itty bitty niches. And this is just a different slice of that, really, because all of us belong to some group or other groups. And and what you're just talking about is that nonconformists can be viewed as highly in a highly negative way. And because of that, people will go out there and they will not understand how anybody, thinks this way, and therefore something is wrong. And so it sounds like that's where you're going with it. And what I tell everybody, again, from my Vegas days, when people tell me about all the strange aberrant behavior going on today in society, I said, listen, man, when I was in Vegas, I saw all this and more. None of this is new. It's just that it's easier to find it, and they find each other, and that's okay. As long as they're not doing, they're not hurting other people, they're doing other stuff. All right. So you go out there, you do this. So give me another example. I mean, who else is a nonconformist that we could look at and say, oh, bad people?
Sure. Well, I trace it all the way back to kind of early tribal society, when it was sort of an evolutionary imperative that you had a certain amount of conformism, because if you had someone in the tribe who wasn't contributing in the proper way, it was a threat to everybody. So you can kind of see where these ideas originated. But as we became more prosperous as a society, it made less and less sense to try to drum people out. So you have the idea of the scapegoat. And then you get things like the Inquisition, where people were tortured for heresy, and they were called witches, and they were called Satanists for not believing what the orthodoxy of the church was demanding that they believe. You have the Salem witch trials, which is a similar type of thing. One of my favorite chapters in the book is about medical abnormalities. There's a lot of myths that have grown up around which we believe to be the result of medical problems that were not understood at the time. So, for example, the idea of the werewolf, someone who turns into a wolf at night, that comes apparently from some medical conditions that were not really well diagnosed at the time, where people would grow extra hair on their hands or extra body hair, and they'd be sensitive to light. So they would go out late at night because they were sensitive to light during the day, things like that. And the myth of the vampire is a similar background as well. This condition called porphyria, where people would be pale and they would get kind of bloody red around their lips because they had a blood disorder, and people would think that they were eating dead people when they were allied with the devil. And, all of these myths spring up to explain behaviors that couldn't otherwise be explained. And instead of just accepting people as being different, you had to demonize them and drive them out of society. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Well, and I can tell you, everybody wants to be different. Everybody wants to be different, but maybe not. That's what you're saying. Everybody wants.
I don't know that people do want to be different most of the time. I think most people want to get along and conform to a certain extent. There's definitely a group of people who want to be different, but being different comes with a cost. It comes in several costs. So not everybody wants to do it, and it can be dangerous to do it. But I think that's how progress is made. Like, that's how we advance as a society. If people were all the same, we'd never move forward. You have to have people who are the rugged individualists who strike out on their own and say, I'm going to do something different from everybody else. That's where you get inventors from. That's where you get brilliant scientists from. And you have to accept those people if you want to have any kind of progress as a society. If you just demand complete conformity from everybody, you're never going to go anywhere.
Right, because you're just going to be just stuck. It's just inert. You're not moving. You're not growing. You're not progressing. You're not going in a direction that is towards the light, if you will. Well, right. And this is obviously a good time to have the book come out, because right now we have lots of trends. We have what I call the new Puritans who are out there. Some people call it wokeness. I call it puritanical nonsense that are doing just that. If we don't believe in the same orthodoxy, if we don't relabel everything because of somebody's belief in what this is, similar type thing in my mind. I mean, I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but I don't believe that we should have language police. First time I read Orwell, I was a little shocked, and then when I read Orwell later, I started to realize maybe some people thought it was a manual of how to do these things or something.
Yeah, you get that impression for sure.
Yeah. So when does the book come out?
The book is released on December 1st, so we still have a little bit of a ways to wait for it, but it will be out, and it's available for pre-order now. And I always like to stress that pre-orders are very important for independent authors, because that's how you get on bestseller lists and things like that, is by having a lot of pre-orders. So I know it seems early, but the more people can pre-order books from the authors you like and want to support, the more it helps them. Once the book actually comes out, it helps a lot less to order it than if you've ordered it a few months in advance.
And it's called Conform or Be Cast Out. Conform or Be
Cast Out, the literal demonization of nonconformists. It's available now on Amazon.com for pre-order and anywhere else where fine books are sold.
Well, I applaud you for it. Good luck. I want to see it. And by the way, if you're watching this, go check it out. Go check out Logan Albright. He's a really bright guy. And sounds like it's one of those books that maybe it's just in time for Christmas. If we're still celebrating it by that point in time, we may just call it something else by then. But if we're still doing it, pick it up for any holiday that you want to do. Logan, any final words about your book? Any final thing that you want to go over? Clearly, it was a passion because it's always hard to write a book. But tell me, what's that last little bump that you want to give us?
Well, I'm going to be at Freedom Fest this late July in South Dakota, and I will bring a couple copies of it. I have a few advanced copies of the book. I'll bring a couple with me if anybody wants to pick one up there, and I will be signing the copies and chatting with people. So feel free to stop by.
Excellent. Well, my guest today has been Logan Albright. His new book, not yet available. So maybe this is the first interview he's done on this. Maybe we're getting a glimpse before anybody else, and it is Conform or Be Cast Out. And all I can tell you is that if you have ever felt like you are not a conformist, that's usually my entire audience. Maybe this is a book that you want to read and go, whoa, this has been going on a long time. So for my guest, Logan Albright, this is John Paul Mendoza, the Raging Verbalist. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.